all yours.
Okay, cool.
Hi, welcome to another ARTbop show. I'm Phil Green, architect and designer here in Tauranga. I'm here with Sheldon Nesdale today, who's a marketing advisor. I'll get Sheldon to elaborate a bit more on some of the other things that he does in his life and during his business day and his night times as well.
Yep.
Welcome, Sheldon.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah. As we were just chatting before, literally, what do you do in your day? You know, you're obviously a marketing advisor, but what things do you happen to come across and people you come across, and then the other side of your life?
Yep.
What sort of things do you do?
So marketing advisor, just got 6 clients. About half of those are in Tauranga based and others are from other parts of the country, mainly Auckland. And my kind of approach to them is just to ask them what their goals are and then map out the to-do list to achieve those goals. It's really that simple. And there's quite a lot of carryover with my night job.
Yeah.
So that's like, so there's 2 real events that I kind of do. One is TEDx Tauranga, another one is a breakfast club that I run as well. Yeah.
Now, you work out of the base station in Durham Street in Tauranga.
Yep.
What's that like, and what's the formula behind that?
Yeah.
Why did you actually decide that would be a good thing for you to be involved with?
Yeah. So co-working spaces are pretty awesome. I first researched them about 4 years ago when I first heard about these things happening in America, and a few places had popped up in New Zealand, a few in Auckland. So I actually organised a tour of all 6 of them up in Auckland at the time. Wow. And they pinned them down to a single day, in fact, and had them scheduled in 1 hour each, and they all said, yes, sure, we'll take you on a tour. So I got up there and looked at all of them, met some of the tenants, learnt a few things, wrote some notes, wrote some blog articles about my experience, and brought some of those ideas back to Tauranga. And from there, I joined in with a group of friends, and we started one, and also had some input into another one that was just starting up at about the similar time. So yeah, I'm very much at home in co-working. It's about so you know, your level 1's kind of you share the overheads, that kind of thing, but then level 2 is way more social. You've got somebody to bounce ideas off around the water cooler or during lunchtime. You know, you just, when you're working at home, you just don't get that input, and you don't really value it.
Yes.
But once you've got it and you've got direct feedback coming from people all the time, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know what you mean, because I flip between working at an office at home and working in town at other offices and that, and it's just a totally different dynamic when you're working with a whole different mix of people. But so with your job and what you do for people, it's not just sort of helping them market themselves and doing that. There's a whole range of things which you do for a client.
Yeah, but really it all comes back to that, setting those goals. What does the future look like? How are we going to get there? Once we've got this master to-do list, it's about who's going to do each item. Is it going to be me because of my background? Is it going to be someone internal to the organisation that we can show them how to do this, or they can take over that? And number 3 is it a person that I know and trust that we can outsource to, maybe a graphic designer or an SEO specialist or something like that?
Yeah. So that's your day job.
Yeah.
All the other things which you've picked up along the way, which have sort of, I suppose, been your day job has been catalyst for other things which you've now got involved with, and you mentioned TEDx, of course, which is, I understand, and being involved with you as well, has become extremely successful in just a few short years. So, what made you go down the TEDx path?
Yeah. So my kind of story started when I was at home. Everything all comes back to this one moment in my life, and it was about 5 years ago when there was a storm at my house. And well, I mean, everyone had the storm, right? And so I'd recently
someone had it in for you.
I'd recently been kicked out of my house by my second son because I had a spare bedroom in there. That I was running my business from there.
Oh right.
But I had ended up getting a portable cabin on the back lawn, and so I was running my business out of there.
Yeah.
And then the storm hit, and I had no appointments at that particular time for 3 days, and it was just dark. It was black outside. I had the curtains closed. I had the lights on, and there I was on my computer for 3 days solid, you know, and I was, on one hand, I was so connected to the world, you know, emails and Skype and phone calls and text messages and Facebook and all that, but yet I'd never felt so lonely. So I came out of that storm, and I was like, I've got to get connected to people. This is ridiculous. And from there, you know, I kind of branched into a few different directions. And one of those was like, what events are there that I can go to and meet more people similar age, similar interests to me. Couldn't find many, but so I went outside, went to Auckland a few times, and went to one event called Startup Weekend. So really, really enjoyed that. I thought, man, this is fantastic. Let's do this in Tauranga. So I came back into Tauranga, and I just took over a breakfast club and kind of made it my own. And I asked the people around that table, I said, this is how Startup Weekend works. We should do this in Tauranga. I think it would be an awesome thing. Who's going to help me? 10 hands went up. So that was my first team that I ever put together. And so we worked on that together. And then shortly after that, I saw I'd been going to TEDx Auckland for several years, and I was sitting in the front row. Actually, the story behind that was I drove up first thing in the morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning, got there, and then realised I forgot my ticket. And I went to the reception and said, hello, my name's Sheldon. I'm from Tauranga. I forgot my ticket. I said, go and talk to that guy. So I went and talked to this guy, and he says, he couldn't be bothered, doing the paperwork or anything. Here's a VIP pass. And so I went down and sat in the front row, about 1 metre away from the speakers. And in that front row was other organisers and some of the speakers. Got to talk to them. What does it take to run one of these events in my city? And they said, it's easy. Just go here, do this, do this. Here's my phone number. Call me anytime. Yeah. I was like, wow, it felt like I was just part of this community now. Came back to Tauranga, repeated the thing. Who wants to help me do this? 10 more hands went up. Yeah. And that's how it all got started.
Well, that's it, because as you say, most people have a life-changing experience when they're in a dark place and come out of it. You really were in a dark place.
That's right.
The storm had cut everything out. Interesting, though, that even with the storm and all the power and everything else and so forth, you were still being connected to the world, which was through the internet. That was interesting. Yeah. And part of this thing seems to be, too, is that you have this great connection with people and enjoy being around different people and just bouncing ideas off, which is a real creative scenario. Because you mentioned Startup Weekend, and because you just had one here.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it was just last weekend actually. And for me, as I kind of led the charge and got that to start in Tauranga. It's just so awesome for me to start that and then be able to hand it over to another team and they run it without me. It's just awesome for it to have its own momentum rather than relying on me, because I've got lots of ideas about things I want to start. And TEDx is a real passion, but I've got this list of other events I'd love to run.
Because everyone says, well, what's startup? What do you mean startup? And it's, as you say, it's just throwing ideas out there and letting people come together and actually formulate them and then just say, okay, well, 2 of us want to do this, let's go and do it. Yeah. Or 4 of us want to do it. So, So out of those startup weekends, how many have actually come to life?
We're leading the country in terms of actual businesses that have been pumped out. Wow. I think we're up to 4. And from this last weekend, the winners look really quite promising. I've only heard a little bit about them so far, but I think we've had 4 actual businesses that are still working. Much better stats. But the whole idea of the event is just exposing people to a different way of thinking, agile kind of development, real fast pivots, lots of instant customer feedback. Yeah. So we put people through that journey, and they learn those lessons, and really, really good for your life.
And it obviously covers a heck of a lot of different categories and different businesses and different things. It's not just one thing. It's a whole myriad of things can happen from it.
Yep.
Yeah. One thing I forgot to ask you at the beginning is, of course, your family and so forth. How do they deal with you sort of being hyper and bouncing around and doing these things and going full on 100% all day?
Well, that's why I've got this list that I haven't launched yet. So, at times it can be really hard. In fact, in my second year of Startup Weekend, that's when I started TEDx. So I did 2 events in a single year, and really that really took its toll. So all of these events that I run, they're all non-profit. I don't get paid a cent, and none of my volunteers do. So that's kind of the philosophy. And that was really taking some serious time out from my family. So they've been really supportive, but also I'm just conscious of the demands it puts on my wife and looking after our now 3 boys. So
yes, 3 boys. Oh, that's terrible. Yes. Yeah. I've been up with a boy and a girl at the moment. But as you say, part of that of that balance, that work-life scenario, we all face it and we all come into it. But as you say, if you can, like from your point of view, and I know with my own personal experiences, is just getting that balance right, but enjoying it. Like, both sides, enjoying your own private life when you can get hold of it, and amongst your busy day life and your businesses that you're involved with. And you took time out sort of, to go to Calgary for TEDx, you know, and that must have been a huge experience, but also, you know, leaving the family behind as well, and then having to sort of go off there for, what was it, a week or something?
Yeah, and I stretched it out a little bit. I'd had a interest in New York for many years as I can remember, so I made tagged on a few extra days in New York as well. So, rode a bicycle for 3 days in New York City. It wasn't even as dangerous as it sounds.
Yes, because I was going to say you didn't sort of run into someone and start up a TEDx or a startup weekend in New York while you were there. Because that's the thing. I mean, because you cycle everywhere, you know, as much as you can, obviously.
Yep.
Just because, you know, you want to, and it's part of your lifestyle and everything else. I mean, it's unusual, actually. I suppose there's a lot of people in the world who are turning back to cycles for travelling around cities and so forth, but especially in Tauranga here, it's not exactly the norm to do. So, I mean, do you find it more convenient, or?
Yeah, there's so many benefits. One, just being outside on a beautiful day is great, but also just the exercise. So I use it for exercise. Also, I'm listening to podcasts as well the whole time at 1.5 speed. So say a 20-minute bike ride, I get through 30 minutes of podcast. So there's heaps of benefits. And when you're at work, so that's the commute, right?
Yes.
But also bikes are so convenient to get to meetings. I'm based in a city, so for anything in the city, I can get there way faster than anybody digging out their car could get, you know?
Yeah, true. Yeah. So you're basically plugged in all the time. Literally plugged
Internet?
in, but also
plugged in,
into,
yes.
you know, as in just listening to what's going on around you, being involved with people around you, as well as being on the internet and listening to what's going on out there in the world thing, and all sorts of interesting things which must cover, like, as you're saying, like all different podcasts and that.
Yes.
So
I'm pretty interested. I'm a very curious person, always wanting to grow. Probably the other big thing I do is read business books. So I've just recently launched a website called lovebusinessbooks.com, and it's got 83 of my favourite books on there. I've written summaries for each book. And so that's my kind of process. I hear about a business book, read through it, make some highlights, and copy-paste those highlights into a blog article to help other people digest what the book was on about. So, just really curious and love learning. As soon as you stop learning, you start dying, I reckon.
Yeah, well, you're making me feel tired. I wish, actually, I know that we probably all should have that better balance, but we always find, we just don't have enough time in a day. But we do. We're just not actually sort of balancing our life the way we should be doing.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, I'm real conscious of my energy levels, though. When I have a off day, I might cancel all my appointments and just watch movies on my beanbag, you know, on a Monday or a Tuesday or something, you know. So I just got to be aware of that. How much energy have I got?
I must try that with my clients. That's what I'm missing. Sorry, no, I've got a beanbag day coming. You know, just feel it coming on.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
In fact, it's in an hour. We had an appointment in an hour, but I'm out.
But I think this is it too. I mean, we all probably take ourselves too seriously. And it's nice, actually, because you're always coming through with this positivity, and there's always a smile on your face like today. And I think, perhaps we do take ourselves a bit seriously, and we take life too seriously, and sometimes we miss the important things. But you're obviously finding time to actually find all those little things which actually make sort of life in every day interesting.
Yeah. And I tell you what, the most interesting thing of all is people. I just love people so much. They're just fascinating puzzles. I'm just dying to meet a new person and figure out how they work, what motivates them. It's just a really interesting, and that journey would never end, you know. I could read all the books in the world, but I would never understand every person, you know.
Well, we sort of find that because Diane, who's also in BOP Writers Group and so forth, and ARTbopSHOW, we tend to find that as well, as the fact that when you're out and about meeting people, you actually become more creative in some ways, you know, because you're listening to what they're doing, they're interested in things, and suddenly they might say something and you go off on a tangent, and suddenly you think, actually, that's really good. I can actually I should be doing that. And go off and do it. And so and it's exactly what you do every day. So it's
actually, you just reminded me of a little conversation I had with my 6-year-old, who's my oldest son, and I said, do you know how to make friends? And he said, how? And I said, there's 2 tricks. Firstly, you learn their name and you memorize their names, and you're always saying it back to them. And number 2, you ask them questions. and that was it. And I thought, actually, that's pretty good advice for adults.
Yeah, you're probably right. Actually, I think we do tend to think as we grow older, we tend to lose that thing which we have as children, which is that natural curiosity, and you don't mind going up to someone and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" You know. But as adults, you think, "Oh no, I can't do that. That's I'm treading on their ground or in their space." But yeah, sometimes, and a lot of people too, when you go and talk to them, my stepdaughter has the same thing with me. She says, "Do you know those people? Why were you talking to those people? Do you know them?" And I said, "No, never met them before in my life." She says, "Oh, that's freaky. Well, that's weird." And I said, "But that's what you do. And you just, even if you just start breaking the ice with someone, and next thing you know, you're in this conversation, you've never met each other at all, and suddenly half an hour's gone by, and you don't really realise it. And it's really interesting listening to other people and what they do and their interests and everything else. So it's just changes every day. And I think when we're out and about doing those sort of things, I think you actually get more. You actually probably get more back than what you give out. So it's the same thing. And like you with TEDx, and I know that because we're involved with you on that, and I never knew anything about TEDx until about 3 years ago when I got introduced to you. And since then I thought, what is this? Didn't even know it existed. It's been existing since when?
1986 was
1986, yeah. And I thought, in 1986, yes, I just came to Tauranga to work, and I think, good grief, that was so long ago. So and we'd just been overseas at the time, and came back, and you just sort of think, well, all these other things are going on in the world. You have no idea that they're in your own backyard. So but yes, that involvement with you and the TEDx team has just been absolutely amazing. I mean, the different people and the number of people you come across, and it's really interesting to see how people tackle the actual thing of one being a volunteer, but also what TEDx is all about.
Yes.
And just understanding so once you introduce people, as you tend to do, they almost fall in love with it, and then they can't wait for the next one. Like you do 1 year, and it takes all year to do it, as you say, and then they say, "Okay, when's the next one?" So apart from all these things, I mean, do you actually have? Well, as you're saying, you plug yourself in, listen to the podcast, and you might sit in your beanbag and actually watch the odd movie there, but do you have anything else that really is just casual leisure time that doesn't involve technology?
Most of my interactions with my kids are pretty casual, and we like to go for bike rides. Sometimes I can do one-on-ones with them, or I can pile them up, one seat at the front, one at the back. So I quite enjoy that. And we got really into camping last year as well, so we might do a bit more of that this summer.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yes. Over in Rotorua we ran into you. Yeah. This is the thing I think, and with the course we're nearing the silly season, as we call it here. Getting near Christmas time and so forth. Do you actually just shut the office? No.
I got too much going on. Like one part of my life I haven't told you about is my niche websites. So I've got 19 niche websites. One of those is lovebusinessbooks.com. Another popular one is nzhotpools.co.nz. So I've got 19 of these, and I want to get up to 100. So I've actually just hired a guy, and he's going to help me make some progress towards that goal a bit quicker. And so I've got 19 email addresses for those, and then 5 or 6 other entities. So I've got 25 email addresses all coming to one place. So it never really stops.
So how do you? 24 hours of a day just disappears, obviously. Yes. How do you keep up with everything?
I've got lots of automation.
Yeah.
Yep. So things that I've kind of figured out myself, and blog articles and stuff that I've read and stuff. So I automate heaps as much as I can.
Okay.
And I often get people like in the co-working space say, "Oh, I really enjoyed that email you sent yesterday." I was like, "What email is that?" Mostly robots send emails for me, so I'm not too sure what you mean.
I gather the responses are fairly generic, and they pick up on keywords. That someone's emailed.
All sorts of different tricks.
I'm really behind the times. I mean, it's just, as I said to you on the drive over here, I have problems just with my new phone. Just thinking, why isn't it working? And so that's hard enough for me to tackle. But so it's quite cool. But so So all of these different directions you've gone into,
Yeah.
So they're involving what, basically just organisations, literature. There's obviously a lot of blog sites which you have yourself and also visit. So
Yep.
So are they more generic and have one thing in common, or are they really widely spaced?
Yeah, really hugely spaced. And in fact, if you get into building niche websites, some of the advice would be stick to niches you're passionate about. And I've done that several times, but also I've branched into ones that I don't have any interest in at all, just because I see an opportunity in the marketplace, some sort of information base. Almost all of my niches are about lists.
Yeah.
Lists that you could kind of get with Google, but not really. But it just takes a human to edit a list and put it into, categorize things and say, here are all of your choices in this industry. And people just love it, hey?
Oh, okay. So sort of like, taking a huge amount of information which is there and just literally condensing it down to what a human brain could handle quite efficiently.
Yeah, otherwise you do a Google search and you get 10 results there, and then you see there's 1 million more, and you're just like, maybe you'll change your search terms and do another search. But,
does that still, I mean, even though the internet's fairly structured, obviously you must come across things accidentally and say, wow, and then that takes you off on a different tangent?
Yeah, on occasion too, yeah.
Because it's not just following the line of business that you're in, but some things must sort of lead on to other things. I know with some of the blogs that I follow on the internet, is that suddenly something will come in and okay, wow, and then I'll click on I have no idea what the terminology is, but I'll click on one of the responses and it'll take me to someone else, and I'm thinking, wow, that's just, I didn't even know that sort of thing existed, or that's a really cool thing that they're doing. And I think that's part of it. It's just keeping your brain and your mind open all the time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, rather than being sort of like a 9-to-5 work person, it's more exciting to sort of be the way you are. Yeah.
And you've just reminded me of a game. It's kind of like a Wikipedia game. So you go to an article on Wikipedia, read through it, see a link that goes somewhere else, follow that through, read about that, go to the next one. So that's a pretty intense way to learn. And that's like, it's a new way we can learn, just-in-time learning.
Oh, right.
Like before, we used to study because we might need that one day. And now it's about, if you know how to do a proper Google search, or some resources to find, you can actually learn just in time,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's actually, it's a pity that wasn't around when we were all going through our schooling and academic stuff, and is that, yes, just in time would be a lot better off rather than trying to think, because I often think back and think, why on earth did we spend 12 months studying that? We only use probably not even 10% of that knowledge. I must admit, though, there are things now which I remember back in high school days and maths, which I absolutely hated, and I now use it every single day in my profession without even thinking.
Yep.
And I go back and think, oh yeah, that's right, that was of use.
Yeah.
But the other part of it, you wonder why. But I suppose it's all part of this building up of this knowledge and this creation in your head, and then it leads you off into other things.
Yep. Yeah, so rather than build up knowledge, you can store that in the cloud and just learn how to find the knowledge faster. That's what you should work on.
I still haven't quite got my head around the concept of a cloud. I know it's not actually a cloud, but it's a lot of people say that's it, and they said, well, just why don't you use the cloud for all this storage or getting knowledge back or information? And I said, yeah, one day I must plug myself into the system and do it properly. But it's I think it's just getting used to the changes, and the changes are happening so rapidly all the time. It's just hard to keep up, I think, for a lot of people, and they get overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
But then that's why you do what you do, because you actually take a lot of that thing, make sense of it, and then give it back to someone and say, well, there it is. It makes perfect sense now.
Yep.
So especially for us older ones. But just going back to when you talked about going to the States, to Canada, to Calgary, and then on to the States and so forth. The TEDx thing in Calgary must be quite massive as far as the size, the scope, what's involved.
That's right. So TED runs a couple of official conferences every year, and with those ones, they have 70 odd speakers up on stage, and the rest of the global population gets those talks drip fed to them. So those 70 will be kind of spread out over the next 12 months. And so you might see a few on Tuesday and a few the following week and stuff, and then they fill them in with TEDx events as well, some of the best ones there. And so it was part of our license, like to get the license to run a 100 people in the audience event. It's pretty straightforward, but if you want any more than that, you have to get the next license up. So that was what you're talking about. You have to do a visit to what's called a TED Active event. And so that was, we got to see the stage, the actual stage for a TED conference. So if you're a TED nut, we actually we sat in that auditorium watching some practice talks, and I actually watched one of my favourite ever. So his name is Simon Sinek, and I watched one of his draft talks like just a few metres away from me, so it was beautiful. And then we jumped on a bus, drove about 2 hours over to Whistler, so just out of Vancouver, and that's where we sat and watched all the talks on a big screen for that week. And in the middle of some of those, we had a few workshops and get-togethers and got to learn a bit more about how to run a really good TEDx event.
And I mean, that was thousands of people in one place. I think you mentioned it was about 5,000 or so, if not more.
I think so. The TED conference itself is about 1,000 people in the auditorium, and there was 700 of us in Whistler. So half of us were TEDx organisers from all around the world, and the other half were just using it as a cheap way to watch the TED content, because it costs like 10 grand to get a seat in the proper auditorium.
Wow. The but bouncing around a little bit with just asking you different things and talking to you, and one of the things what would be one of the things which you're focusing on right now that's really quite creative from your point of view?
So it's a bit of a change for me. I've always been a one-man band kind of solo who uses outsources. So just this week I've hired this guy to sit with me for 3 hours a day, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and his sole focus is helping me build up my niches, and that's quite kind of new work. We're rebuilding or improving some of the existing old ideas that I've got, but also he's going to be quickly going into a new phase where it's launching new ones.
Because that's the sort of thing, as you say, as you tend to sort of get more and more ideas and you want to put them into action, you actually have to bring in outsourced people, or suddenly you actually end up with a staff member and then 2 and then 3. Do you think that'll ever happen to you, or would you?
I don't think so. The stress would kill me. I just don't like the idea of building up those overheads, that pressure to keep on doing what you're doing, and when you get employees, they all get paid first and then you get paid last. That's never agreed with me.
Yes. Yeah, well, yes, there is always that factor. Yeah. It's I think all businesses sort of face that at some stage.
Yeah.
Okay, got to keep the staff happy.
Yeah. And I'm like, I've got stress about looking after my own family. Imagine the stress of looking after your employees' families, because, you're...
That responsibility.
Yeah, paying that salary is paying for their family. So it's like, don't know if I can handle that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. And then of course, if you had that, then you couldn't actually take that time when you can bring up people and say, no, sorry, I'm having a beanbag movie afternoon. Sorry, can't see you. Because if I do that, then the staff haven't got any direction, or they're not. I'm not feeding them enough work or something like that. So yes, so it's all that. And you can't take the time out like as we were coming here and we were just walking down to David's place here. Is that I said have a look around the corner when you arrive. And you look down that thing and saw the Purakawa and the blue water. I said, I should have walked with togs. So it's, and do you often feel sometimes that that's actually what we should all do when we run businesses? Actually, just have those sort of moments. Go and do things.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. Because I know where I work, I look out on this courtyard, and I'm often thinking, I'll actually just pick up my work and go and sit outside, and just for a change. And I just think, and then sometimes I think, why am I sitting inside in my office on the computer doing all sorts of stuff or other work for clients? And I'm thinking, really just want to be outside.
Yeah.
So you sneak off for an hour, and then the phone goes, and you're back. You get dragged back in. So it's that.
Actually, I've recently set some new rules for myself. I don't schedule any meetings on Mondays or Fridays, and no meetings or phone calls in the mornings of the rest of the day. So there, my window for meetings is just Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays afternoons.
All right, yep.
So that's been really, really good, because I just know that I've got that space if I want to all of a sudden take half a day off, or go and do something else, or get home early before the kids get home from school.
Yes.
So I've got that freedom now. So I've found that absolutely wonderful. I've just done that for about 6 weeks, and it's just fantastic.
I think that's it too. I think we're especially in the modern world, and with technology basically following you 24/7, and you're actually literally at everyone's beck and call for that amount of time as well, is to say set those rules and those parameters and say, sorry, no, can't do it, doing something else or whatever else, and actually basically sticking to it and making people aware that, sorry, it's like I have a situation where, because of the people we're involved with, usually on a Wednesday or Thursday in the afternoons, a lot of my clients or other people I'm involved with go and play golf. It's just in their diary. That's what they do. Wednesday or Thursday, you can't ring them, and that's the thing. So perhaps we should all, as I keep saying, we should all be coming back to that sort of thing. So, but there was something else I was going to ask you before. You just touched on something, and I've forgotten it actually. No, I can't remember. But do you find that is Tauranga more conducive to what you do than a lot of other cities?
I just knew as soon as I came to the place, so I've been here just about 10 years and got my first job here from Hamilton, and just got here and just immediately fell in love with the place. And I thought, I don't even care what it takes to keep me here. I'm just going to make it work. Yeah. And once you know where your base is, then you make anything work, and you kind of, you look out there and look for opportunities to improve things a little bit, And I just saw several of those opportunities, and I actually went through a phase where I waited. I thought it's so obvious that we should have a startup weekend or a TEDx in Tauranga. And then I waited, and they didn't happen. I thought, but it's so obvious. And then I realised, so somebody's got to take action. Yeah. And obviously I can't do it alone, so that's my question. Here's how it might work. Who wants to help me do it? And that's when people say yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Just sitting here talking and so forth, you sort of come across as being very switched on and businesslike and everything else, and you know exactly what your purpose is and what you're going to do. And then we've also seen, not here today, but you're actually very emotional about a lot of the things you get involved with. Yeah. And that's it. Is that just comes from the passion of believing and doing those things and thinking, wow, I get really involved with these, and then to see it's not so much a big monetary reward, but certainly that reward comes back in a whole lot of other ways by the people around you, just saying, hey, Sheldon, brilliant idea. What should have done it years ago. Thank you for being, making us part of what you do as well. Yeah. And we have seen that on occasion where you have become quite emotional. Yeah. But I think that's actually good. Do you think that some of the people you business mentor as well should show a bit more emotion and actually, just get in there?
Yeah. I think, like when it comes to business strategy and like planning, those things are just like black and white, and you just get them done. But as soon as you inject people and inspire people to take action, that really gets me going, and inspire people to make changes in their lives. I think that's just beautiful. And when people meet each other, one of my favourite moments, I say it all the time, has been two people that I know and love meet each other for the first time, and it's just like good.
Yeah. And that's the sort of thing. I mean, and do you find that this emotional contact scenario that you do, that you get out of, the things that you get involved with and the people you're involved with as well. Yep. When you're doing your actual business thing, do you try and impart some of that knowledge, as in, when you get down to, and you take all these different points and you condense them down and you hand this list to someone and say, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to go and focus on, and everything else is part of that, just the emotional part of...
No, I'd say now that you mention it, I see a very split right there, and that makes me think that maybe that's why I get involved with these events, to fuel that emotional connection with people, because business can be so cold and logical.
It's black and white.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so now that you mention it,
see, I've made a point here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because in what I do, which is a creative thing, I actually, I suppose my passion is partly involved in what I create for different people.
Yeah.
And yet, I suppose my solace is that my emotion goes into family, as you've just said anyway, and I think that's extremely important. Everyone should have that connection, but it's also having something outside that black and white business scenario, which is so essential. And I think we've all tend to forget that occasionally. You know, we sort of charge in there's Monday to Friday and it's all business-like and everything else, but you forget probably in those 5 days you've met so many really cool, interesting people, but you've never bothered to actually connect with them in the first place. It's just been, we're here to do a business or something. And some of that comes out of, again, these TEDx speakers and so forth. When you as you know, when you see them and you listen to them, and they're quite awe-inspiring. Some of them, especially some of the ones that have come from the backgrounds where they've been living on the street and have suddenly turned into world-renowned people, and inventors and scientists and just general people who are doing amazing things. Yeah, and all of that sort of thing is part of this roller coaster effect that you experience, and now you're also making some of us experience the same thing, which is really cool. Yeah. So, I'm not too sure if there's much else I can actually ask you about things, because we seem to have covered quite a lot of things. Yeah. But in summing up a sort of things of your life, I mean, in fact, going back to when you were a kid, like your 6-year-old son, did you ever think you would be at this stage? Or what was, apart from being probably a fireman or a policeman, what did you actually,
I actually don't have many memories from my childhood, and not because I blocked it out, it was traumatic or anything like that. But that's my number one question my oldest son asks me every night. He says, "Tell me about something when you were a kid." And we did that for 3 weeks in a row, so 21 nights, and I pretty much ran out of things. So.
Yeah, I must admit, I have the same thing, because my brothers, who are all older than I am, they often say, "Oh, do you remember so-and-so?" And I'm thinking, that was happening when I was probably about 5. And I said, a bit like you, my memories of my childhood seem to start at about 8. Yeah. And I'm thinking, why can't I remember the previous things? And I'm just thinking, well, your brain just probably wasn't there, just that's the sort of thing. But, But actually, it's quite funny how our kids especially make us sort of ground us, and actually then sort of make us think more clearly as well, and then just make us do stupid things occasionally, which makes us enjoy life. I remember, I think it was about the kids were 8 and 10, and we were playing, water pistol games and so forth, and running through the house sort of with water pistols and inside the house. Yes, I know. And then Alexander decided to get the hose and tried to bring that in through the house. I said, I think we better stop the game now. But it's those sort of things which I think we think back, and it's actually quite connective, and it makes us sort of realise that, hey, life's about fun as well. But yeah, part of that thing with kids especially is in fact, I think it helps, like as you were saying, probably those things which you do at home and it's your private thing, but you're actually bringing them into your day life as well, in business, and you don't really realise it. Yep. And I think that's that connectivity.
Yeah, actually, we're talking about that split between the business kind of world and why I get involved with the events and the emotional side. There's probably only one thing that crosses over, and it's just my sense of humour. I'm always teasing even brand new clients, giving them a hard time about things, and so that's the only kind of emotion that I get over on that business side. And as you know, trying to inject some of that into meetings and stuff as well. So just want things to be fun, like you say, because I think I'm allergic to boredom more than anything. That's my one major allergy. Yeah. And so that's why I'm involved with so many things. And sometimes, you do the most, what things should you do first, the most important or the most urgent? I actually don't, what's going to be the most fun? That's on top of my list.
Because urgence and importance are basically the same thing. You're just thinking, well, they both sort of have the same rating, but as you say, but then you think, okay, well, this is important, and I can have some fun doing it. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Well, it's like myself with my own business, and that is that I you're there discussing business and that, but you do try to inject a bit of humour or something, and it actually helps you find common ground sometimes with your clients too.
Yeah.
Because they realise it's, yes, we're here to do business, to sign contracts or to do different things, but if you can have fun doing it, then that's even better.
Yeah.
And it's not only does the time go quicker, but you feel also you feel like you're achieving a lot more. I think at least I do when I talk to all my clients, and that it's the same scenario, is that you're getting to know them as well as they're getting to know you.
Yeah.
And humour breaks the ice quite a lot. And but it's gauging that humour as well. It's just getting that right level.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that ties back to a lot of things, because like in the co-working space, imagining myself at home and I might watch a funny video and laugh, but when you're in a co-working space, there's reasons to laugh all day. And it's just, there's lots of writings and research on what effect certain chemicals and stuff have on your brain when you are laughing, and it just improves your mood and improves your health and stuff over time as well. So if you put yourself in situations where you get the chance to smile or laugh, then you'll be a healthier, better person for it.
Yeah. Oh, it's no, you're quite right. I think this is it. It's the dynamics of an office too, which changes, whether it's a full on just one office full of anything from 10 to 20 or 30 people, to actually like you are in co-working space, where you've got all sorts of mixed backgrounds and people from different businesses working under the same roof. It's like Diane and I, we're the only two. So, it's sort of, once you've had a bit of a chat to each other, it's, okay, now what do we talk about? But no, it's not really like that. But we have a lot of fun during the day. We make sure we have fun during the day.
Yep.
And I think that's it. And often when we're out and about, even, having a coffee or lunch in town or something, and, you're talking to people all the time, and you just, and it's as you say, there's some sort of chemical that goes off in your brain, and you feel sort of like you can go back to the office and do a lot more work. In fact, probably you can actually get through work, like do something in 2 hours that you would normally do 4 or 5 hours of boring time, but because you've actually had that sort of chemical laughter going off in your head, then you actually seem to be more efficient and you focus better. Yeah. So, but in fact, on that, in a co-working space, do you actually, the focusing on what you're doing, I sort of think that unless you've got a set of headphones on, you can't actually concentrate on your own things.
Yep. So there's a couple of things there. The first one is that when the more things that are going around you, the easier it is to tune it out. And then the second one is we actually do use a headphone kind of policy. Some people might even put them in and not actually have anything playing, but it's a signal to others, don't disturb me at the moment, I'm in the zone.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of the protocol.
Oh, you see all these modern signals I've got to use too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Actually, I should try that myself.
At home.
Yes. Oh, I should do that. Yeah. Sit there because I'm often finding that I just want to sit down and, like you're doing, you just want to crash out and watch some movie that has no sense at all. Just because you want to zone out.
Yep.
And then often you get interrupted. Oh, come and do this, or we need to go and do that, and you say no. So I'll try the headphone trick.
Yeah.
So I said, sorry, zoned out, don't want to know, not here. Go away.
Yeah.
So but the problem is I'm usually watching it because I stay up real late at night. I've never needed much sleep, and so while the rest of the household's crashed and sleeping, I'm still up at about 12 or 1 o'clock watching real old movies that have no sense at all. In fact, they're quite humorous, just seeing the by today's standards, how the old movies were crafted and so forth, especially black and whites, and subtitles. And I'm the only one in the household who likes subtitle movies. So so it's just and I think that's a brain thing, as in being able to watch something and then read at the same time.
That's tricky. It's too much work for me.
So it's just But so when you are crashing on your beanbag, are you actually, and you're literally trying to zone out and just relax and so forth? Do things still crop into your mind? Obviously they must do.
No, almost none.
Right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I got a way to just switch my brain over and just really enjoy what I'm watching.
Okay.
And like some people get a bit of momentum when they watch a movie that they don't like, but they'll sense of completion. I'll finish it anyway. I don't have any of that. If I'm 15 minutes in, off onto the next thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because right, yes. Oh, well, you'd make a good critic then. Oh, sorry, that's no good. Move on. Just yeah.
But I'd make a good critic. I'll watch the first 7 minutes, hate that, and then not watch the rest. I assume the rest of your movie was also bad.
Yeah, rubbish. Yes, exactly right. Yeah. I don't think you'd make a lot of money as a critic.
That's right.
But it's the same sort of thing. I mean, it's just doing things. But if I'm relaxing like that, whether I'm lucky enough to go and jump in the hammock, and sit and lie in the sun and read a book or something like that, I'll be my brain. I think I'm relaxed, but my brain's sort of ticking away in the background, and then suddenly a little idea will pop into it. And
what do you do with that idea?
No idea, because I never have anything around me to jot it down.
See, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And once you've got some way to capture those ideas, then it's much better.
Yeah.
Because don't you hate it when you have that memory of having a good idea but not remembering what the good idea was?
Yeah.
That's the worst.
It's those 3 o'clock in the morning when you're awake. Oh, I must remember that, and then you go back to sleep and it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got to find a way to make a note.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty lucky, I've got Siri, so I can just say, make a note.
Yes.
And write something, at least. She often gets it wrong, but at least it'll prompt me to remember, what on earth does that mean? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I'm a great one for, like, where I work at my desk, I've got like a sketch pad, which I doodle on and do designs on, and I also write notes on. And I'll go back to it, and like you were saying, you'll have these little catchphrases, and I'm thinking, what on earth is that? I have no recollection of why I wrote it, when I wrote it, and I'm thinking, what does it mean? And about 3 months later on, if I haven't filled up the page by then and thrown it in the bin, I'll come back and say, oh, that's what that was. But by then, it's sometimes it's still time to do things, but other times it's thing. But it's having that. Yeah, I think we need almost like a little implant in our brain, which we can just go push and say and tell it to do something, and then just go back to sleep. But yeah.
Well, there's something close. So Siri, if it's plugged into the wall, you can just talk. Say, hey Siri. So you don't even have to reach out and touch a button.
I think Diane might object to me in the middle of the night saying, oh, hey, Siri. Don't you say, what? Who are you talking to?
Especially because she reads it back to you as well, just to check.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Because...
But have you ever written notes in the middle of the night, though, without turning the light on? It's just like, you've got a notepad there, writing some things down, and you look at it in the morning, it's just lines are going crossing over.
Exactly right. I mean, no, you're right. I think we've all done that. Yeah. And then you think, and I'm usually quite good at writing things sort of like in the dark scenario, because I'm visualizing as well where the proportion is.
What a skill.
And it never actually, no, that's what my brain's telling me. Oh, yes, I know what I'm writing. But as you say, it's usually up and down and it moves, and I'm thinking it's never on the same line, and I'm thinking, so it's just trying to do all that. But yes, I think we need to invent something for us human. After all, we're only human beings, and we're just so fallible. I think our memory span for a lot of things is quite short.
Yeah, it's called the cloud. So taking notes in the cloud.
You sound like my son. Oh dear, as that he'd be freaking out. Yeah, because he despairs of me as far as that goes. Because every time I go down to visit him and so forth, he said, and I said, I've got a problem with my phone. And he looks and he says, what have you done here? And it's, he said, how did you do this? It's all back to front and messed up. And he said, so he just goes ding, 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 and it's poof, back to being perfect again. And I said, so I sort of wait. Unfortunately, he lives in Wellington, so I only get to sort of see him.
I'm carrying down my phone to you.
I should do actually once a month, just send it down and get it back again. So I long for the visits I have with him, because he sorts out all my technology. Yeah, which is cool. So yeah. But,
I just heard a story about a new piece of technology. One of I don't know if it's Elon Musk from Tesla or somebody in that kind of realm. They're working on high-speed transportation pods. So, like, I don't know if you've watched the TV show Lost, where they have these little canisters or some.
It's like Futurama has that too.
Yeah, Futurama's got them as well. Yes. So this guy is actually working on it, right? And so it's 3,000 kilometers an hour, so 3 times the speed of sound. And this guy that he was interviewing was saying, "I'm actually a physicist, and how would you deal? The acceleration and deceleration would actually kill someone." He says, "Yes, it's an issue." So it's like he didn't say, it's a problem we have to fix. It's like it's just something we have to overcome.
Yeah, we're working on it. It's all right.
That's an entrepreneur's attitude, eh? Yeah. We'll get started.
Well, exactly right. But it's strange because as you were saying, it's the like cartoons, because I'm the same. I'm like, I watch Simpsons, Futurama, and things like that, and Batman and bits and pieces. And I've done that all my life and things. And now I sit down and I switch it, sit down and watch the TV or something. I forget a chance and I flick on and Futurama or the Simpsons might be on a channel or something like that. And the rest of the family think, why are you watching that? It's a cartoon. But it's actually quite interesting because it actually stimulates you. I find it that, one, I don't have to think too much for a start, but also just different little ideas and things pop out. And it's that sort of thing. And I think we tend to forget that as kids we used to read comic books and we used to be involved with things like that and we used to draw silly things but I think that's...
Well, like in terms of that show as well, it's so, because it's like in the future but it's meant to be funny. Yeah. It's just very smart in terms of how it does the science fiction. So it's also, so it can kind of propel real world ideas like the acceleration pod and things like that. Yeah.
So. Well, no, you're quite right, because it's like, I remember when I was really young and Jetsons and all, and Lost in Space was on, those very, very early things, and I'm thinking, but most of the stuff has come to being true, apart from Lost in Space. But all of those things, and it's the technology which we're actually living with today. And I think that people forget that it actually came from cartoons or science fiction type movie things, which was just imagination. And, we just got to use our imagination a bit more in life, especially at work. So, Well, in fact, you do use your imagination, don't you? Because you've actually got to think outside the norm a lot of the times to actually get an end result. Especially when for clients and that, you've got to take them on a bit of a journey.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I think that just about wraps it up.
Yep.
So, thank you, Sheldon.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Yeah. Learning a bit more out of you every day. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you, David.